particular day, we come with a lot of questions and I think some pretty significant answers. We'll be looking at that in a moment. But so you know, 4 times this day, the church bells have rung, twice for the planes going into the towers, and then twice for when the towers came down, and also surrounding the Pennsylvania and the Pentagon attacks. Quite a day, quite amazing events that moment, that day. All of us have embedded in our memories, this is the way the brain works, it permanently imprints our memories on significant events like that. And those events, you may remember, probably remember where you were and what you did, but also what you're thinking. And the question we answer today, hopefully answered, from Isaiah chapter 40, really fits in well with this particular day in American history. As we wonder, where is God? What has happened? God, why have you ignored my cause? Or it seems like that. So we're going to be in Isaiah chapter 40, verses 27 through 31. And this is the last great question we'll look at this summer series, looking at some of the great questions of the Bible. And hopefully we'll pick this up again because it's interesting to see the questions God brings up to us and the answers that He gives to us. But Isaiah 40, really the chapter 40 is a transition in the entire long book of Isaiah. Isaiah the prophet lived in the 8th century BC, contemporary of Amos, Hosea, I think Micah at that time. And Israel was, the northern kingdom of Israel was, during Isaiah's lifetime, was assaulted and taken captive and dispersed by the Assyrians. And then Isaiah would forewarn his own nation of Judah that would happen to them too, and it did in 589 under the Babylonians. So we as Americans live with an amazing amount of security. We really do. We're the safest, most secure people in the history of the world, I would say, in so many ways. Isaiah's day, people lived with a lot less security. If the Assyrians came and took your town, things really got bad really fast. And so Isaiah can speak to circumstances that are even way beyond our own circumstances, even with the significance of the attacks of 9/11. But Isaiah chapter 40 begins this great chapter of hope. Up to now in Isaiah, it's been pretty grim. Isaiah's been predicting bad stuff to everybody in the world because they haven't followed God, including Israel. But then Isaiah 41 starts off, comfort my people. And this is God's great promise to us. This is comfort to us and His guidance for us. So in Isaiah 40, verse 27, there is this question that God is going to address. And the question comes from God. And within chapter 20, verse 27, there's a question that is embedded within the question from God that Israel is asking of God. So here's the question. God is saying, why do you say, O Jacob, and complain, O Israel? So why are you guys complaining? In verse 27, the second part of this verse, is the question of Israel asking back of God. And the question is this: my way is hidden from the Lord, my cause is disregarded by my God. God, where are you? Show up, Lord. Show up, Lord. And so God, in response to that, in verse 28 says, do you not know? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He will not grow tired or weary, and His understanding no one can fathom. God gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Even the youths grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. So these are great questions that we ask of God, many ask of God. And some of the answers that people gave, even Christians gave, after 9/11 were really bad answers. They didn't reflect the biblical hope and a biblical perspective that is all-encompassing in His love. But 9/11, we wondered, where is God? And we wondered, what should we do? And those are really deep questions of protection and guidance. And we as Christians, though, we fervently believe that God wants to guide us. He is ready to guide us. He yearns to guide us. And within His guidance, we find the surety of His protection. When we finally get going in the right direction, then we realize, each of us, that God guides us out of some bad things and into some really good things. And He wants to do that. So wherever you are this morning in your life, know that God is a God who yearns to guide us and lead us, and He will, He has. And the testimony of the Bible is that, but also the testimony of many of us in this room is that very thing, that God guides us. He's eager to guide us out of really specifically 2 bad things and into 2 really good things. So He guides us out of the 2 bad things are sin, capital S-I-N, the sin that keeps us out of heaven. And He guides us out of sin, little s sin, the sin that entangles us every day. But He also guides us into His great calling, our life mission. And finally, He guides us all the way to the summit, what we call heaven. So I'm going to use the mountain climbing theme this morning. Our slogan is Climb Higher Together. And our church this past summer has taken 4 church-wide hikes. We climbed Mount Osceola, Mount Major, Mount Lafayette, and Lincoln. And then yesterday we just took a group up to, if you were on at Welch Dickey, up into the White Mountains again. So we've hiked about a total of 25 miles. I was adding that up a minute ago. Over some pretty rough terrain. And in all, if you add up everybody that's been on the hike, the number of people each hike, about 62 of us have made these hikes through the day. So you're going to hear a lot about hiking this morning simply because we made that hike yesterday and it's fresh in my mind, but also we've had a great summer of hiking. But I think that the mountain theme really, and that's Mount Lafayette right there, actually looking across it on the screen. But this offers a lot of opportunities for us to understand what God is up to as He teaches us. So let's use that metaphor to help us to guide us in what God is up to. So maybe this day, 911, when we question a lot of things, we ask a lot of questions and think about things, maybe to frame the big picture will help you see where you are and where you are in this journey and where God may want you to go. So first, God guides us out of 2 bad things. The first thing is sin, capital S-I-N. Now, we are natural-born explorers. From time immemorial, we have wondered what is over that mountain. You know, there's just something that He says, you know, I wonder what's over that mountain, or I wonder what's up that river, or I wonder what's up that ravine. A few years ago, I was in Israel, and I was on the shore of Galilee, and I love to hike, I love to get out and start walking, so I just started walking, and I came up to this deserty area, and it was like a ravine, a river, and I was like, man, I've got to go up that ravine. And you know, the Hebrew word for no is low, if I remember correctly. Sure enough, there it was, and I was like, man, I think we can get past that. And so I started hiking up that ravine and going up the riverbed, and I started kind of thinking, I wonder if there are any landmines back in here. You start thinking these kinds of things. But there's just something in us that just says, we've got to get out and explore. That's wonderful when it comes to physical boundaries. But the problem with human beings is we also want to explore beyond our moral boundaries. And that means that we first choose the wrong mountain to hike up. We look around and say, there's God's mountain, but there's got to be a better mountain somewhere. And so we start hiking up the wrong mountain, and the mountain of success, the mountain of money, the mountain of fame, the mountain of pleasure or comfort, whatever it is, we all know those things. We've all done most of those things. We're hiking up the wrong mountain.